Hi everyone, it's John from What Up. Welcome back to another video, and I have a very special guest with me today. It's Koala Sedai. She has traveled far and wide all over the world and has collected some unique Age of Legends artifacts. No, not really. She collected some cool things from some of the set locations and has actually visited some of them. So that's what we're going to talk just a bit about today. So I want to forewarn everyone that we're doing spoilers up to and including The Shadow Rising, which is book 4 of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, and spoilers for season 3 as well. Haven't seen the show, read the books, those where the spoilers are. And again, if you like Wheel of Time and you like Wheel of Time related stuff, consider making us your home for Wheel of Time news, subscribe, and of course, like the video and tell 2 friends. Hi, Koala. How are you today? I'm pretty excited to have you on. I've had you on a couple times before. We've done things with Cards of Time and whatnot before, but this is a little bit different. Like
Yep.
this is pretty exciting. I'm a little jealous you get to travel and see some of the spots where they actually filmed.
Honestly, I was so lucky to be able to go, because will I be able to afford to go again? I really don't know. But I was determined to make it to the first Con in Prague. And the really exciting thing about going there was being able to go around and see some filming locations. And I keep meaning to make my own content about this, and I just get caught up with stuff. So I just thought, how about I just jump on and talk with you about it and show it? Because sometimes it's easier to make content when you're just talking
Mhm.
to someone else than to sit and try and sort of script things
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, working on your own sometimes it's a little more difficult. I do the same thing. I'll sit down, I'll talk for an hour, and then realize I didn't say anything. So
Yeah, yeah, it's easy.
So you went
Yeah.
to Valkyrie Con. When was that? When did you get to head over there?
So that was September last year,
Okay.
2024. And what I did was so the Con is over the weekend. It's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so I arrived the Monday before and didn't leave until the Saturday after.
That makes sense because
Because if
you're
you
coming from quite a distance away. So
I didn't realize how much more of a trip it is to get to Prague than to get to the US from Australia. Um, because it's like when you're already doing a really long trip, it doesn't seem that much more. But yeah, it was big. Um, so I'm really glad I did that because it meant that I got to do lots of stuff. And even though I was kind of ready to go home, I could have had a couple more days because Prague, it's funny. Australia is quite a big country, to get from one state to another. It's 10 hours drive, 15
mhm.
hours drive, whatever. You get to Prague and it's a few hours to drive from one side to the other, right? So it's not a big, and that's the whole country. One of the days after Con, a few of us went on a national parks hiking tour for the day. And so they picked you up at 7:30 in the morning, dropped you back 7:30 that night, and you were just hiking in national parks all day. And we actually went over the border and we were in Germany at
Oh,
one
no
part
way.
of that. Right. And that was a fantastic day. And we actually got to see one of the filming locations from Narnia
Oh, that's
on that
neat.
day. We were standing on the spot where the kids come out of the wardrobe and actually first walk into Narnia. So that was a bonus, filming location. Um, but you really had to be there to start to realize that to get around all of the Wheel of Time filming locations in Prague, you need a lot of time
Mhm.
because they're not all in Prague. In fact, only Jordan Studios is in Prague,
And everything
or,
is,
or
is is
you know,
outside the city in the countryside. Yeah.
all the rest is out in the countryside. Because when you think about most of what we're seeing in the show, they are in, rural type areas, and
Mhm.
so of course so we wanted to be able to make sure we had time at each location. So we had hired 2 cars, and there was, I think, 7 of us who spent 2 days in the first week before Con going around filming, and then I did some more after
Mhm.
Malkirikon. So you might have to drive for about an hour and a half and then get out of the car and walk through the bush for an hour to get to the actual set location. And then, of course, you've got to walk back to the car,
That's
get in the
dedication.
car, and you might be driving an hour to the next site. So,
Mhm.
huge thanks to What Series because we were able to use a lot of what they'd put up about filming locations to map all of the locations out. Ashikova did an amazing job of working out where we could feasibly get to,
Mhm.
over 2 days. And we did them all. So that was great. And we're going to talk today about getting to the Two Rivers
That's
filming
exciting.
set.
That's gonna be a big part of
And
the next
before
season.
it is. And just what we've seen in the teaser trailer, we saw two, twice we saw that filming location in the teaser
Mhm.
trailer. So that tells you it's going to be a big part because tiny little 1 minute 11-second trailer, not that I've counted the seconds, um, and to see that same location twice
Mhm.
tells you that there's going to be a lot there. It was really interesting though, like going there because before people get too excited about what they're going to see, the set has been completely
Yep.
dismantled. So we had to find a location that was like gone. And we were, you're driving on like normal roads, but then we were on like a dirt track that had little tracks leading off it. So we kind of nearly got into trouble going, through some fences at one place where there were security cameras, but we managed to get out of there quickly enough and finally found the right track. And that feeling as we were driving in and the trees kind of like just opened up and all of a sudden we were just looking at this expanse and that row of cliff faces behind it that was just like this is it. we
You're
we
here.
know we
Yeah.
know we're on the spot because we can tell by that stuff around, but it's just like bare. And they burnt a lot of stuff. So what we figured that they would have done is dismantled and taken all of the reusable stuff away,
Mhm.
and then they would have just been burning off probably like frames that you couldn't
Yeah. Yeah.
dismantle and reuse kind of thing. And so it had this really eerie feeling because it felt more like after Moraine had, slaughtered all the trollics and everything and kind of burnt down than after the Battle of the Two Rivers. So one of the people that was with us was Thirsty the Clown.
Okay. That's awesome.
And yeah, and Thirsty is like so much fun. Let me tell you, you get a chance to do a little holiday trip with Thirsty, do it. It's
So,
really fun.
so for those of you watching at home that don't know who Thirsty the Clown is, they are a regular feature on What Idol, and they have made some really, really hilarious and incredible, and
Hmm.
even moving. So this last year was a really, really like kind of sad, moving one, which was really nice. But they make some really incredible parodies for What Idol every year. And if you don't know what What Idol is, well, you'd have to probably take a look back at my channel a bit. But it's a song parody contest that me and a few other creators run every year, and it's a whole lot of fun. Um, but it's really kind of expanded the fandom, I think, because like a whole lot of people that
Oh,
wouldn't have
yeah,
made things or kind of interacted are doing that because of that. And Thirsty has been a staple since the first One Idol. So yeah,
correct.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of excited that you got to hang out with them. That's really neat.
Yeah, yeah, we had an absolute ball. We actually ran um uh like a session at Malkirikon
Oh no
on
way, that's awesome.
creating song parodies together. Yeah, which was really fun. Anyway, because Thirsty is involved in the entertainment industry, it was pretty fabulous because Thirsty found the first clue that we were indeed definitely on a film location. And I've got some, and I brought treasures back with me, of course. And this is going to seem really strange, but these were the clues. And to anybody else finding them, because the Two Rivers location is quite large,
Mm,
right? It's quite large. We
it's huge. Yeah,
spent
yeah.
seven of us spent an hour basically grid searching, right?
Wow.
So it's quite large. But when Thirsty he found one, they found one, and then he found another, and he was like, "This is the tape that they use to mark, like, mark all of the film locations out with." He said, "We use these in the theatre on the floors on the stage. This is without a doubt a film location. It can be nothing else." So that was our first exciting little clue that we were on a film location. The next thing that was found that I got to bring back, again, it's kind of like, what? Well, what they do on sets is they're always touching things up and fixing things. And you can see, like, this is old and this is rusty. It's been out in the weather ever since they finished filming. So, and again, Thirsty was able to go, yeah, like that is the kind of brush you are going to see all over sets anywhere. It's like, okay, I'll bring that home. Then just for the fun of having it, I did bring home a little burnt piece of wood. So I have the frame
Oh,
of one of the buildings
that's
on the
amazing.
Two Rivers set, right? So there were lots of fire pits where they had been,
Mm,
burning things off. And of course, on the edges of the fire pit, you always find bits that didn't quite burn.
mhm.
And now I'll show you this one next. I'm deciding the order. So then we found this is a piece of a roof tile.
That's neat.
This is a piece of a roof tile. And we had many jokes because, again, Thirsty could confirm to us that we know this is part of a set because this foam is used to glue them together. But of course, you would never do that on a real house.
No,
You can
never. No. Yeah.
imagine how long that would last on a real house. But it made one of our favourite jokes was that if Sembui ever gave up thatching and took up roof tiling, that's the kind of shit he'd do. Is just stick them together with a bit of spray on
Oh,
foam. And we
100%.
knew we were in the Two Rivers. The next thing that was a bit exciting was this is the only one of these we found that is a hinge, and it is
That
a
is
real
neat.
hinge, and it's heavy, right? That added weight to my suitcase, and I had to weigh up, like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't care, I am bringing that hinge home. So I like to call it a hinged on the door to the forge, and you can imagine how I'm going to be watching
You're watching like a hawk
season
looking for
three
that.
to see, is that hinge just a common hinge that we see everywhere, or is it a particular type of hinge, that is only going to be on the inn or the forge or something. But I found a hinge. And now this is my favorite. Thirsty found this. Thirsty, I tell you, he was like a bloodhound. He was amazing at just finding things. But can you guess
Is that
what
trollic
that
fur?
might be? That is trollic fur.
That's amazing.
Absolutely, right? Yet when you turn it over, it's like, that fur is on material. So we found just in this one random spot, just a patch of trollic hair.
That's amazing.
So that confirms to us that not only are we going back to the Two Rivers in season three, but there are going to be trollics involved in a battle because there's trollic hair.
100%. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
super. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous. That's really neat to have.
I know, right? I am as far as I know, right? Because it would only be if anybody else had been there
Mhm.
before us and haven't like jumped on the internet and screamed and yelled about it. I'm the only person in the world with trollic hair from the Battle of the Two Rivers.
That's amazing.
I might tell you though, it's all really dirty. Like I'm already getting because, and a lot of it is because they burnt the set. Just
Mhm.
everything is just like
The
got this
soot and
kind of
the smoke and
powdery, yep, just this powdery. Now, I've been doing a bit of rewatching and I cannot uh, I'm wrong in my first presumption of what this next thing was. And I know that because Lauren has he just recently put up a video and he shows a little bit of when they were over in Prague
Mhm.
last year and they got to walk onto the Two Rivers set before it all got it got
before it get burnt
demolished.
down. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And at first, I thought that what I had was the tip of a palisade.
yeah. The big spikes they put on the outside of the village to make
Mm.
sure like keep trollics
But
out and
it's
whatnot.
n- but
It's
it's
not.
not because I've now seen what the palisades look like.
Hmm.
And so I've been like rewatching, and I haven't seen this in the show before, but I can only presume that it is going to be the tip of a trollic spear because
Oh,
look at the
wow.
size
That's a
of
big one.
that sucker.
Yeah.
Right, that is big. And you can see that it was actually attached to a piece of wood originally, so it would have had a handle on it. And it's bendy, it's foam, right? So it's like you can, do your fight scene and stab someone and you're not going to kill them. It's going to look really effective. And we actually found a little pile of these just nearly at the end. There was
Wow.
just this one spot, and there's this little pile of these, and everybody else there laughed at me when I ran back and found a bag that I had in the car and insisted I was taking them all. They're like, "What are you?" And I'm like, "You think we're going to turn up at Malkirikon in a few days and say to people?" Oh, look, and I've got this one thing, and there's a pile of them, a couple of hours drive away
Yeah.
back at the. I said, I can't do that. And well, let me tell you, they went like the hottest potatoes at Malkirikon. People were just like, do I want one? Oh my God. And so I did give them all away except for the one that I brought home. So what do you reckon?
I that's a I didn't expect. So I expected the tape, and I expected some little burnt charred things, but a whole like at the end of a Trolloc spear. That's wild.
You reckon that must be what it is?
I that looks to me so. People watching at home, correct me if you think I'm wrong in the comments down below, of course. But that I would say that 100% is that's taller than your head. That's a big end of a
I know,
spear.
it's huge. It's huge. And
So
and there's no reason for it to be foam if it wasn't being used in fighting,
no, 100%. And we know
right?
that the Trollocs are going to be there. We know they're adapting the Battle of the Two
Yep.
Rivers. We've seen bits and pieces
Yep.
of it. We've have all the leaks and whatnot. So it totally makes sense that we're going to see them there. Um, and finding the Trolloc fur and the spearheads, kind of like that's yeah. No, I would say that's totally a Trolloc spear. Like
It's
that's.
pretty fun. Because I that made me start like looking back on season one and the
Mhm.
Trollocs had when they attacked the Two Rivers the first time, they were like serrated big knife
Mhm.
things that they had. I didn't notice any of them with a spear.
Now
And so then I started looking at the white cloaks, going, the white cloaks don't use spear, but no, they were all using swords. And of course, that's nothing like the Aiel
no,
spear.
they're much flatter and a little bit
So,
longer. So the only other thing that I could think of it could be so like I think it's very rough too, which makes sense for a Trolloc weapon, but
yes, it looks revolting, doesn't it?
it does. I'm wondering if perhaps they didn't create some sort of spear that was big enough to fight the Trollocs with too, because they probably didn't have many weapons in the Two Rivers, and Perrin's sort of a blacksmith. So I'm wondering if maybe that isn't a part of it as well. You see the forge going in the teaser trailer,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
and so it My
See,
first
that is
guess.
a
Yeah,
possibility that's some rough weapons that they make from farm tools.
yeah, to combat a much larger muscular
Yeah,
enemy. So
yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
but yeah, no. I think your first instinct is right. It's probably a trollic spear because that it makes too much sense. I'm just spitballing something else, maybe, but I think
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
probably right.
yeah,
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm smiling
yeah.
here. I
I
folks at home,
know,
like
I know.
this is super cool to me, at least anyway, and I'm really happy, Koala, you're here to share this with us because this is really neat.
Especially now that when we've got the first things coming out about
Yep.
season three, it feels like really exciting to be able to talk about, trollic fur, spears, battles happening. We've seen Perrin, we've seen Fael,
Hmm.
we've seen that Fael can fight with knives. We've seen all of that on the teaser trailer. You noticed that, didn't you, on the teaser trailer? That
Yes, it
behind
is.
Perrin, there she is with the knife, and it's like she's got this little tiny pixie face, and it's like you want to watch that girl.
I've said it a few times on my channel, but I think that the third season is what's going to really start to bring back a lot of people who maybe didn't like the first season that much or the second season that much or even hated the show because they're adapting what is arguably one of the fan favorite storylines of the entire series, and that's the Battle of the Two Rivers. And from everything I've seen, they're getting a lot of it pretty spot on. And all the leaks we've seen too kind of showcase the fact that they're doing a lot of things that are very accurate to
Mm,
that particular
mm.
storyline. So I
Yeah.
think it's going to be something that I don't think anyone's going to miss. So again, if you're on the fence about the third season, or if you didn't even like the first two seasons, and I know a lot of you out there that watch my channel don't enjoy the show, but you enjoy hearing about it for whatever reason, um,
Because
come
we can't help
back.
ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. So, but come back for the third season. Comes out March 13th, and I think it's going to be something that's really going to surprise a lot of people, and I think it's going to be. Well, I know it's going to be as far ahead of season two as season two was ahead of season one, at least from everything I've seen. So it's going to be that much better. And I think it's going to really set the tone for the rest of it. Because you understand, like, no more COVID, no more strikes, no more interruptions, no more problems with cast leaving. Um, all of that kind of set the
Oh,
tone for the first two
only one
seasons.
minor cast member who left.
That is true.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
But
want to say
I
easily
don't think he's
replaceable.
going to be there.
Yeah,
He might not be there for long anyway.
I'm guessing an episode and a half at most. And if you don't know who we're talking about, we're pretty sure that that's Alana's warder Ivan, who is not around for the third season. So Emmanuel Imani played the warder for the first two seasons. We don't think he's coming back for the third. We're pretty sure he's not, and there is someone
Now, in the
else.
teaser trailer, you could see it was a different actor.
100%
Yeah,
was a different
yeah,
actor, so we know he's
yeah,
not coming back. I can say that for sure
yeah,
now. Um,
yeah,
and we know who's going to play. And I talked about here on my channel before, so we know that there is that replacement, but
yeah.
it wasn't a replacement such as say when Matt left, or when Inktar left the show,
No,
and they
no,
had to they
no,
had to
because
really
it's just
rewrite
not.
everything. Yeah, it's not quite the same.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
I don't think he makes it
So,
out
can
of
I
that.
ask you a
Yes,
question
yes,
about
absolutely.
the teaser trailer?
Yes.
Is that Perrin forging in the blacksmiths in the forge, or is it maybe Master Luhan?
So that's the thing. So there's been a lot of talk about that online. My initial thought when I first saw this teaser trailer was Parent because it makes sense to have Parent do that. Um, but there's
I
been a lot
don't
of
think it's his arm.
analysis, we'll say, of arm and how the skin looks and how muscular it is and even how long the fingers are and whatnot. Like people were really getting into it in Phantom, and I
Because
think
that's what we do.
that's right. I think the consensus is it's not Perrin. Um,
No, I asked your opinion.
in my opinion, I don't think it's Perrin.
Yeah, your
Uh,
opinion.
yeah, my opinion, I don't think it's Perrin, and
No.
I don't know if it's Master Luhan or not. I don't know if we're going to see them in the show. They were referenced in the first season, but maybe we'll see them. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Um,
It
But
just would make sense with Layla gone. It would make sense that the character's named Master Luhan,
and they get
even
to
if he's not kind of connected to Perrin. It kind of makes sense as the
it
name to
does,
go for, doesn't it?
and it's one of those things where it would make fans happy just to see that just for a brief instance.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
as silly as that
yeah,
sounds to some of you out there, it would make some people incredibly happy just to see, even for an
yeah,
instance, him on screen.
yeah.
So I think that's probably what it is. And I know that for a fact, there are a ton of other things in the third season, especially in and around the Two Rivers, where they are walking back, or I guess walking back is not the proper way to say it. They're leaning in, I guess, further into the book stories than they have before, because they have the ability to do that, because nothing has really touched the Two Rivers storyline to change it yet from all the changes they had to do. So
Mm, mm. Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty excited to see how that works out. And we now know that Child Buyer is in the third season thanks to Watt series. Just before Christmas they released his casting. Guy Moody is going to be playing him. So I don't know exactly how far they're going to lean into some of that stuff, because the reasons why Perrin's going back may be a little different, because he actually
Yeah,
did do the killing in the show versus in the books where it was a rumor. so
exactly,
so
exactly.
but yeah, no, I'm really excited for this season coming up, and especially the Battle of the Two Rivers. I'm really jealous that you get to see the set and see some cool things there. So I'm gonna ask you a question now.
Yes.
What is something from the Battle of the Two Rivers that was in the books that you think needs to be shown on screen? Could be anything small, anything big. It doesn't really matter. What do you think needs to be shown?
I think it's the Perrin arc. I think that we need to see Perrin come into his own,
Mm-hmm.
and that's and it's not going to happen quite the same way. Fael is going to be important, but I think, yeah, mostly we need to see Perrin come into his own, and just that it's that nice book ending of that feeling of victory for everybody. That's it. That gives us all a bit of a coming home feeling. Yeah.
I'm pretty excited for that. Like I think it's going to be, so we know, or we guess. So I think Golden Eyes is episode 7, um, of the next season. So there is a lot of conjecture, but there's some facts behind it that we're going to see the Battle of the Two Rivers, or at least the Two Rivers plot line, over more than half the season, which is a fairly substantial amount. I don't think they've spent that much on any plot line. Even the Shanshan plot line from season 2 did not span more than half the season. It was only about 3 episodes long. So I think we're going to see something very special, especially when it comes to that. And I'm pretty excited for it.
And it makes sense because they can bring in a lot of the importance of the story through the Two Rivers because they poured a lot of money into building that set.
They did.
So why not use it? You don't necessarily have to have Camelin if you can, bring plots in the way they've already done and
Mhm.
bring the boys to Tarvalon because they've already put the money into that set, and so they can probably do more at the Two Rivers than we saw in the books, or at least infer more, so that they bring a lot more of the full story in using that set, and that makes perfect sense to do it. I have the real joy of watching this with someone who's not read the books,
Mhm.
and she's invested in this. So she's now watched season 1, and she doesn't have Prime Video,
Mhm.
so she only gets to watch it with me. Right. So how fun is that? And so she's now watched season 1 3 times, and we are halfway through her second watching of season 2. And it's really good watching it with somebody who's really clued in, who's loves fantasy, very smart person, right? So she's an Episcopalian priest. So like, she has quite a memory. How she remembers all facts and details is beyond me. And and I know how much trouble she has absorbing and remembering
Mhm.
all the little connections and everything. So I think that there's a lot of smarts in how they're doing, if they can only have 8 episodes an hour long, by condensing and combining, they are feeding. There are some things they haven't fed her yet, and I'm really hoping season 3 is going to start to really bring that all around and connect it up for her. Like who the Dark One is. She's come up with a theory. Maybe Paddon Fane's the Dark One because she can't quite, because they've not been clear
No, but
on
100% not.
on this thing, and so she's noticed that Paddon Fane is different to everybody else that's either a Dark Friend or a Forsaken. And so, yeah, so she started to come up with this theory, maybe Pattern Fanes, which I just love, right? You can imagine sitting there when she starts saying it and just trying to go, oh, that's
Well,
very astute. How
maybe,
interesting.
maybe.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
you don't want to
Okay.
ruin
So,
anything,
so
of
tell
course.
me a
So
bit
yeah.
more about why you think that, and just going, oh my God.
But I mean,
So,
that's the joy that people who haven't read the book series that are getting out of the show because they really don't know what's going
yes.
on. And to be fair,
Yeah.
it's also the joy that people who have read the books that don't mind changes are getting out of the series because it's like
Mm,
it's like reading a new book almost in some ways. But yeah, no,
exactly.
I'm pretty pumped for this.
But I didn't know what the hell was going on when I was reading the books. We can forget
Yes,
how much did not make sense when we didn't have the extra books the further ahead books to reflect back with.
the very first read I ever did of the book series was as they came out. And I reread all the books every time the books come out.
Yeah,
And I remember reading The Eye of the
yeah,
World for the first time and just being confused. Because, and this is something I will admit, The Eye of the World is not a fantastic book. It's okay. It's an okay fantasy book, but it is not
yeah, yeah.
the be and end all of fantasy. It didn't really know what it wanted to be. It was very confusing. It had some things in it that maybe didn't make much sense, especially towards the end, that were not used. Ideas that were not
Correct.
used again. Yeah, and then the Great Hunt came out, and it just expanded, and you get a little bit more information. You're like, oh, that makes more sense. And then you go back and read the first book, and you pick up on a couple little things. And then when the Dragon
Mm-hmm.
Reborn came out, it was the same thing. And it's I think a lot of people sort of forget that because when they're watching the
They
show,
do.
they're like, none of this makes any sense. We don't know what's going on. Well, we didn't the first time we read the books, by and large, for a lot of things either. And it wasn't until you had the extra books later on, like the full series, or even up to
Yeah.
book 6 and 7, that really the world was built and you knew things were happening. And even then, Robert Jordan would go back and say, I'm just going to change that. That's we're going to retcon that stuff. That's not happening. Like Tim, like
Exactly.
certain I can't say I almost said it without spoiler warning, which I don't want to do. But there were certain things that he was sure he was going to do in the books that the fandom was
Yeah.
like just guessed, and he's like, no, we're not doing that anymore. Just cuss.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
so
But also there were so many things that didn't make sense in the early books until later
yes,
that you can't read them now without
knowing.
knowing how they connect. And that was the real joy in watching season 1 again with Kathy after season 2. So we watched season 1, and then before season 2 came out, we watched it again. And then we watched season 2, and she went, we've got to watch it again from the beginning. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, we've really got her. And that was when she started to see things that she hadn't seen because she had season 2 to reflect it against.
Hmm.
And that's where you start to go, yeah, of course people are confused because the first book of the Wheel of Time is pretty confusing. When that was all
Yeah.
you had theories about what was happening, and you were probably wrong on every single one of them because how could you have guessed where Robert Jordan was going to take it and how much the world was going to unfold? Yeah. So.
So so
So
I
I
think
only
the
got a
third.
few weeks left.
Well, March 13th is coming fast. So I
It
am.
is now because
I'm gonna do rewatch here in the
only
channel. So
two
I'm gonna be
months.
doing a few episodes per week starting next week.
Oh,
I
good,
think Sunday's gonna be the
good,
first one.
good.
And I know a lot of other people are doing rewatches right now too. So Dusty Wheel's doing
They're
two.
everywhere. They're
Yeah,
everywhere.
2 8 hour streams. Watt Series is doing it. I think Talk Around Rewind is doing one. Um,
Dusty Wheel is
Yep.
talking about doing one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's tons of them out there right now that are going to happen. So the reason being, folks at home, is because the more views that the series gets,
Mm, mm.
the more oomph, I guess, behind renewing for season four, because season four has not been renewed yet.
Yep.
We likely won't know until
Yep.
after season three drops if they're going to renew it or not. And it's one of those things where um, I think season three is going to really come into its own, and it's going to be something that really people are going to watch it and go, "We need more." And we have to lay that groundwork now
Yeah.
by kind of showing Amazon and Sony that this is something that we want, that is popular. And don't get me wrong, the show is doing well. The streaming numbers are
Ah, absolutely.
they're crushing Lord of the Rings, and that's the metric I use because Lord of the Rings can go pound sand as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
Jeff Bezos can take that and shove it. Um,
Yeah. Do you know what? I can't even watch it. I didn't make it through season one,
so
and I love The Lord of the Rings,
I watched the
right?
first
I,
season.
I love it, but I think I got to episode 6 or 7, and I just went, I can't do it, which is unusual for me
Yep, and
to
it was
to
pretty.
stop. Usually, I at least want to
It was a
see the end, and I was just like,
it was a pretty show with a story that didn't do it justice, I guess is the best way to put it. And they put
Exactly.
so much money in behind it. I watched the first season because I did the after show with Fellowship of the Fans, um,
Right.
and that was interesting because I didn't like it, and I was the only person that didn't in a bunch of Lord of the Rings fans, and I was like, well, this is. And it wasn't because I was upset about canon or changes or anything. It just was not a good show. Like, just objectively
No,
as a
I just,
show, it
yeah,
was terrible. And then
it,
season
it just
two,
felt very wooden.
oh,
It was
it
just very slow, wooden, like you said,
forced.
beautiful, but
Not a great show. In season two, I've gotten 3 episodes in. Still, I have not gone past the third episode because I just can't. It's just not. I watched season
yeah,
one and two of the Wheel of Time dozens of times, but I can't get past season three of Lord of the Rings. And there are a lot of people out there like that
yeah,
too. And unfortunately, Amazon signed some contracts that say they're going to pay the Tolkien Foundation whether or not they make the show. So they're going to make the show. But they have not done that with Wheel of Time. So there is no safety net for the fandom.
yeah, yeah,
The show is going to be judged on its own laurels more than anything else. And the third season, I think, is really going to draw a lot of people back in.
definitely.
So I'm hoping you folks out there feel the same way I do, and you're excited for the third season. Because I know I got time off booked already. Because
Oh,
I'm going to need
definitely.
it. I'm going to need it.
Definitely. Because I've got to watch it. I've got to, play with everybody online. I've got to create my cards just before I race off to WhatCon.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Yeah. So get ready for releasing some cards of time with me as soon as the show's finished, because I'll be madly
100%.
making them
I'll
while it's happening.
I'll be excited for that. And this season does mark something special as well. The season ends just days before JordanCon. So there are
Yes.
two major Wheel of Time conventions in North America, or in the U.S. rather, and JordanCon happens in April, and WatCon happens in July. WatCon is new. I think we're this year be the third year, I believe, fifth year,
I think fifth year.
fifth
I
year.
think
Okay,
so.
so I've never been. I've never
Fourth or
been.
fifth. Fourth or
Yeah.
fifth. This will be my third year going.
Okay.
So maybe the fourth year.
Okay, very good. Fourth year, but Jordan Con has been going on for years and years and years, and I think with the season ending so close to Jordan Con, and again realistically only a month or two out from WatCon as well, I think the
Yep.
fandom's going to be pretty energized for both of those cons, and if you can make it to either one of them, so Jordan Con's in Atlanta and WatCon is in
Ohio.
Ohio. So different spots. We don't really have a convention here in Canada. So
Make one.
people have said that, and I barely have time to do this. So
I know. People tell me to make a Madlands con, and it's like, yeah, no.
That'd be a good idea, though.
Oh, it'd be fantastic if someone else, anybody listening, if you want to organize a Madlands con, I will be your number one team member and help you. But I'm not going to be the one organizing it. It's too much.
That's exactly how I feel about something in Canada too. So, but yeah, no. So
Yeah.
they're the two bigger ones in the U.S. And they're happening around the same time. So this year's going to be kind of special, I think, for a lot of Wheel of Time fans, and I'm pretty excited for it. And I'm hoping myself to travel to JordanCon this year, which will be a first for me. I'm pretty excited about that.
Fabulous.
It's one of those things where I've been a Wheel Time fan since 1990 when the Island World came out, and I haven't really interacted in person with any of the fandom ever.
Oh,
So
you
it'll be fun for
won't
me.
believe how much fun you have. Right. You might have high expectations and you might think, oh, it's going to be great, but you won't believe just how much fun you have. These cons are like ridiculously good.
I'll be my wife's coming with me, and she is not a Wheel of Time fan. So that will be fun for her in a different way. I think watching me have fun.
And even at WhatCon, there are some partners who come that are not particularly Wheel of Time fans, and some people go out and do little day trips
Well,
around, I
we'll be in
mean, you
Atlanta
can just,
for a few days prior to the con and a few days after. So we're doing some other things
yeah,
as well while we're there, which is going to be
yeah,
fun.
yeah,
We are 100% getting tattooed in Atlanta. That's going to happen. Because that's what we do for our date nights. We go get tattooed. We're both covered. So, but yeah, no, it's going to be a good time. So yeah, so season 3, March 13th, and again, Koala, thank you so much for showing us your artifacts from your trip
oh,
to
thank
Prague.
you.
I was
Thank
again
you.
very jealous, but
It
very excited to see them.
it's just so much fun. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so thank you all very much for sticking with us here to the very end, folks, and here's to many more.